It can take years or decades to find that path, that road to home. There's no map, no Google. And home for some people can be on top of a mountain, hiking, somewhere that you find peace and stillness. And for others, it's a town, a neighborhood, or even a family. For some, the road's home. It's a healing quest. And for me, I've had to take many roads to find what I consider home. Today, we will be talking to my foster family, and they're the family that I wrote about in my book, Rhodes Home. And in the book, their name was Rhodes. They were the Rhodes family, and it was kind of a journey for me to find my place in the world, my home, a place where I felt safe, and a place where I could grow and I could heal. And today, I want to talk to them about many things. I have many specific questions. As a foster kid, I felt finally, once I arrived at their house, I just felt so, it felt like such a natural setting. But before I arrived at their home, I think it's important to note everything that I had experienced, or a lot of what I experienced before I became their foster daughter. And I wrote my book, The Garbage Bag Girl, in the house on 3rd Street. And I really felt like I wanted to write the Rhodes Home story because it was such a beautiful story and it provides such a natural setting to me for what had healed me and helped me to grow. And but I wanted anybody who read it to also read the other book so they could understand the context of what they received in me, this girl, when she crossed the threshold with a garbage bag all those years later, to see what they really had to heal, things that they had no idea that I had experienced. But before I had entered their home, before I crossed that threshold, I entered social service system just as a foster child when I was only 2 years old. I was placed by the state with a family with my 2 older sisters, and the family that we were placed with ended up secretly, without the knowledge of the state, sharing us with another family. And they split the money that the state gave them. And then we were placed with another foster family. And before that, I was cycled through many other homes as my mom, after she left my dad, she just kind of went from home to home to home, any place that would let us stay there. And eventually there was nowhere else to go. And that's really how I ended up with the child molester and in foster care, and then back with him, and just bumped around to all kinds of homes. And then as a young teen, I ended up awarded the court again after we finally were able to get somebody to listen to us and about all the sexual abuse. So officially, I was in over 21 placements, but unofficially, it could be as many as 50. So members of my family of origin sexually abused me, and they tried to end my life. They brutalized me, tortured me. And then in foster care, the early foster care before my last home, and before there's another beautiful home where I was treated so well, and that was with Louise. But before these homes, I was placed in foster care where the foster parents tried to end my life, just as in my earliest years, my biological father also tried to end my life. I was stalked by human traffickers. A foster brother tried to rape me, and I fought my childhood, and I fought back. And I even fought back when one of my foster moms tried to kill me, and another foster parent tried to kill me, and tried to kill one of my sisters. So I fought back. Throughout my childhood, I fought back physically, protecting my body, my soul, and my mind. And I would devise strategies to fight back, pre-planning for the sexual assaults and the physical assaults that would come. I was in the middle of a war zone. It was a battlefield. That was my childhood. And eventually, after reporting a sex trafficking attempt and a sex trafficker that was stalking me, I reported that, and I reported a foster brother who tried to rape me, and a foster mom who tried to strangle me to death. A caseworker locked me away for reporting those crimes. So the journey continued at the Rhodes home. And that was my last foster home. And today I am seated with the Rhodes family at their kitchen table. We have just had a meal together as a family. In today's episode, I will provide a wealth of information for you about the magic, the methodology of how they healed the traumatized child that I was. And they had many other foster children, so I wasn't somebody special who they came up with this plan as far as how to heal me. This is what they just naturally did. And the words of wisdom, they will provide some words of wisdom for foster parents and those interested in becoming foster parents. They will discuss blending families into foster homes. And they will also share the inspiration for becoming foster mothers. And then they will also, my foster sister, Carol Sue, will share what it was like to become a foster child, to welcome a foster child into her home. Now, this is, again, I told you, this is my foster family. And here with us today is my husband and my foster sister, Carol Sue, and my foster mom, Linda, and my foster dad, Jim, is also here. I do say they are foster family because, well, I need to share that with you so you'll understand that this is what they do. This is their work. Carol Sue is still working for the system in the foster care system as a trainer. But I say foster because I do need to distinguish them from my biological family because there was so much abuse in my biological family. This is my healing family, but they are my family. And today you will notice that I ask questions to mom and my sister. And it's more of a mother's perspective, sister's perspective today. But my dad, my foster dad, he has always been very involved. He is that strength, that support. He's always there, just like today. He is right here with us. This is Carol Knuth, and I'm the host of the Carol Knuth podcast. I'm also the author of the Garbage Bag Girl series. And the series includes The Garbage Bag Girl, Rhodes Home, and the Rhodes Home book is about this family and the house on 3rd Street. I'm also the author of the novel Through the Rain. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you learn a lot that will help you in your journey as a foster parent, or perhaps you will gain some information if you are trying to decide if you want to be a foster parent. And also, this is a great episode for teachers, society as a whole. Thanks so much. Welcome. Living in their home, they had this magic in their home of healing children. So all these years, I've just really thought about this and, what was their magic? What was their method of healing kids? I mean, how is it possible to heal somebody as traumatized as me? And I also, my sister, both of them have been foster parents. They had a lot of foster children in their homes. Carol Sue is still working in the situation where she works with training, and she can tell you her resume and all that. She's been a foster mom. But even before, I've thought about this for so long, since we were kids. Even before she became a foster mom and worked in the system, she, as a kid, she was already working with kids. So she's been doing this even when she was a kid. And I think people that have my perspective as far as me being a foster kid, but I've always been curious about the journey of the foster sister who was living in the foster family, who was actually the person welcoming a foster kid. I think that's really, really fascinating. You know, what is it like for them? Because I always felt kind of guilty because felt like I was taking away from the family time. But I also knew that she was the first normal, to me, teen. It was the first normal, healthy home, and she modeled for me how to be your typical teen. She showed me it all. And when you're in a foster home, people just think, well, these are foster kids in a foster home. But what about the kids? I mean, she really made not just my foster parents, but she made such a difference for me. I mean, she shared everything. Her bedroom, her clothes, her gold belt, her red pants. She shared her cousins, her grandparents, her school, her friends, her grandparents, her bedroom. She even let me ride her horse. She shared her basketball team, pom-pom squad. She shared these things. She welcomed me into these spaces of hers. The first day of school, when I started school at her school, I followed behind her and she shared her table. She made space for me at her table. Walked behind her, she sat down, everybody had to move over, and she set the tone for that entire school, for her entire friend group that day and all the days after that at school. She set the tone. Hey, this is who this is. Scoot over and make room for her. She is why people made room for me and a place for me at that school. And this is what these kids do. You've got the foster kids coming in, and this is the important role that they play. And I've always wondered what was in her head. I mean, we were like real sisters. She taught me how to have conflict, and it was okay. It wasn't just the things that she shared and the fun things. It was how to have conflict, and we've continued a relationship. So she taught me how to be that teen during prom, and if I had a terrible nightmare, she was there for me, even if we were bickering. She taught me that life, that way of being, and even as adults, she has continued to pattern what a sister does and a mom, and she's just continued to show me this. And I just want to know, what was that like? What was your perspective of being a foster, my foster sister, or the foster sister, the other side? What's your perspective? What was it like?
And this might be where I let you down. Because I don't know. When I think back to it, it was exciting. It's something that was just a part of our family. And, you talk about that magic. I don't know what that magic is. We were just a family, but we were also extremely accepting of others. And so my parents were always very open about possible placement, and when that time came, I know I was excited to have someone that was similar to me, similar to my age, someone that I could have as a friend, and a sister that was a part of me, even though I had other sisters. But I don't know from that perspective what type of perspective you want to hear, because it was just a part of who we were. And we were talking earlier about transitions. I want to say that because I went through a transition at an early age, that maybe that had some influence on it, but I don't know that I really thought about it from that perspective. You know, changing schools and recognizing the difficulty of making new friends and being an active part of, you know, trying to build your footing in a new area. For me, it was just being able to accept someone into our home and being an active part of their life and allowing them to be with us and becoming a part of us.
Maybe teens are more accepting and resilient as far as new situations, maybe. It was just kind of a flow, and we don't necessarily communicate and share everything that's going on in our minds. I was just some kid that showed up, but to me, maybe you didn't realize that I was so starved for like that sister relationship and how things worked for a family. For you, it was just, well, here we are. So it was very natural, which was really, really kind of cool too, because it was such a natural situation and setting, which you had no idea that you were so important, that you were actually such a teacher, because the idea of not even knowing how to be part of a family might have been, I didn't say, hey, I don't know how to be part of a family, so do you have like a little cheat sheet? Or it was just the naturalness of it all, I think, was what really helped me too.
Yeah, I never even thought about that part of it, that I was teaching you or that I was an active part of that. It was, you know, I wanted you, I think, almost more than you wanted us or wanted me, because I was just literally excited to have you to be a part of my life, and I don't think you see that in that manner. But we had our times. We continue to be a real family. And I just want to stress that. I know there were times as I was growing up that, you know, maybe I looked at my parents and was like, I don't know that I want to do this anymore. You know, maybe we need to just step back a little bit but I knew that they had that desire, and I wanted to be an active part of that desire. I mean, we had some challenging times that we had to work through, and you know, I remember at one point I looked at you and said, but I was the original Carol. You know, there were points in our lives where we had to renegotiate how we worked within our family. And so that doesn't do away with some of those challenges, but we had some really good times too.
And I think the challenges, sometimes you learn a lot through the challenges. The fact that you guys, because I really was a very challenging child, very trauma, and you guys didn't send me away. So the fact that your family kept me helped me to see that you just continue to work through the difficult times, and that was even important. But then you went on to, after all of that, you went on to become a foster parent yourself.
Yes.
So how old were you, and what inspired you to do that?
I remember probably we were living in New Holland, and I remember being in my bedroom and thinking about what my parents do and how they would have, you know, how we would have children come in, and some of them left and some of them stayed, and a couple of them stayed, and I remember sitting there at the edge of my bed, and I was thinking about what I want to do in life, and at that point I wanted to be a foster parent. I knew in my heart that was something that I wanted, a goal that I had for my life was to become a foster parent. And I wanted to do it just as good as my mom and dad. I mean, I recognized what I had as my parents, even though it wasn't a perfect life. I recognized their commitment and their love and their nurturing, and I wanted to be very similar in regards to their skill set as a parent. And I also knew from their involvement in the foster care system the need that was out there. And, it didn't matter who I hooked up with or who I was going to be a part of. They were going to follow me right along. And so I was going to become a foster parent.
You've adopted children, and you actually work. What is your title now?
I am a lead foster parent support specialist with DCFS.
And what do you do?
I support foster families. I do a little bit of everything. So what I do is I maintain stability within our foster homes, and might recognize that a placement might be appropriate within one foster home, and let the worker know that, hey, we have this need here, this home might be a good place for that need. And if there's needs within the home, I try to advocate to fill those resources, and I work closely with staff in regards to maintaining the stability of our homes and that type of thing.
I always feel like you should be like the boss of everybody because of all of your experience, all of your knowledge, and just who you are. Perfect. This is the perfect thing. I think you've been raised to do this job, I think. So do you have any advice for foster parents or people who might want to become foster parents?
My advice for anyone who is considering becoming a foster parent is to include your family. Don't get on this idea and not involve everyone that is a part of your family, because you will not be successful without the supports of your family. But also step back and think about the fact that foster care is supposed to be a temporary situation until things can be cleared up, and then it's not to be something that we view as an adoption type of an adoption agency. Recognize that the history of that child is important, and that we need to maintain their history as well as their identity. So fostering's not something you can do on your own. You have to have a huge support system, and if you think you're going to do it without support, you're not going to be successful.
That's interesting. I'm learning a lot from you myself, but you're just a wealth of knowledge. So how many foster kids, because you were a foster mom, how many foster kids?
I'm still a foster mom.
Do you still take foster kids in?
We're still licensed, yes. Next year we will begin. We have what you would call, we have adopted, so that all of our spots are full. We have one that has turned 18 next year. We have two that turn 18, and so next year we'll have one opening, so we can begin receiving children again.
Do you have any, I know this is kind of a weird question, but okay, so you have advice for people who might want to be foster parents or for foster parents, but like the foster teens who are part of the family who are welcoming in a foster kid, because you have insight into that. Any idea or perspective that you could, I don't even know if they ever even ask anybody that, but I mean that's an important part of the family, like your perspective. Any advice or thoughts for the kids about?
I think that's where it's important that you include your family. So for our family, if we ever consider a placement, no matter the age, we communicate not only with our immediate family, but we have adult children that don't live within the home. We communicate with them too, what our ideas might be. I think it's important to recognize what your boundaries are, and you need to hold clear to your boundaries. There is a great need, and I told a caseworker the other day, I said, I will oftentimes beg because that need is so great. But you need to know what is appropriate within your home environment, what your capabilities are, as well as what your boundaries are. And you need to strive to maintain what those are. But also clearly using or informing and discussing it with your family as much as possible. Because if you just bring a child in without that discussion, you're setting not only that child, but your entire family up for failure if someone is not on board.
And your family is a team. I mean, I can see that. It's, yeah, your family is definitely a team. And I think that it's really, really unique. So I wondered how that worked.
Jeff and I have strived really, we went into it. We didn't go into foster care to adopt. We honestly did not. We did go into foster care to parent teenagers. And that's really odd because we had younger children. But my experiences with my family, with my parents and my family, I was a young child growing up with older teenagers coming in and out of our home too. And so that was something that was familiar to me. We knew that we wanted a large family. That's not why we went into foster care. We had a large family, just ourselves. But we ended up we have a really large family now. And so our desire as parents of our children is to bring them together. We're a very diverse family with different mixtures and identities, and we're just very diverse. And one day our children will not have us. And I wanted, as a parent, to bring our children as close as possible as we could, and to have them lean upon each other when we're not around. I don't want my family to separate and kind of go off their own way when something happens. And so it's extremely important to us as parents to do what we can to continue to build those relationships. We have adult children not living in the home. We have young children that are in the home. And so because those adult children aren't living in the home, they don't have near the relationship with the younger children as if they were living together. So that's why we do so much as a family, so that we can bring them all together and they still have the ability to build relationships even though they don't live within our home.
You do these huge holidays and this huge family vacation, which is so cool. So you're constantly really connecting with each other, and you're creating this web and this safety net for everybody. And it's really unique and such a joy to see.
Yeah, and we try to have like game nights and different activities throughout. Saturday we're going to have our pumpkin carving, and we'll have games and carve pumpkins and have snacks. And I mean, we just constantly try to, we'll rent movie theaters together and do things to where we're bringing our family together, not just on holidays. And yes, you mentioned our large family vacation, but not just that, we do it beyond that.
Those are all great ideas too, by the way. The game nights, those are things that other people can do to continue to connect their family and their blended family.
Right.
So that's a good idea. But I know you are also, okay, I know you've received awards from the state of Illinois for your work. I can't remember what it was. I should have looked it up. What was that for?
We were recognized through the state of Illinois as Angels in Adoption. And that is something that you travel to Washington for and receive that award. Every senator comes up with a name within each state, and Jeff and I were awarded that. What it means is the reason that we were given that award was because of our ability to maintain siblings together within our family while supporting their cultural history and their identity and maintaining some of those ties.
That's interesting. Well, I say you definitely learned a lot of that giving and never giving up and that constant connection from your parents, which is so cool. I've known you since I was 16 and you're 15, and here we are all these years later, and I think that's so special. So there's not a rule book for foster kids, especially for when I was a kid. I didn't know what the rule was, if I could still be in the family or if I had to go it alone, or I didn't know what to do. And I didn't ask. But this family has always been here. You know, anytime that you never walked away from me. So, and I think that's what a really loving foster home is. It really is a home. It really is I got lucky in this specific home. It really is a forever home. And then Mom and Dad, I always wonder, I just have these memories of being by the fireplace, especially Christmas, and your horse getting out and you having to go outside and get it while I was nice and warm inside. And all the things, the ceramics, all the things that we did together as a family. And it just felt like magic. One of my daughters said, Mom, you were raised by TV families, largely. That was my examples of families. Until your family, I actually got to step into the TV, so to speak, and become part of that family. But I've always wondered, what's the magic? You had this, to me it was like magic, to be able to, I came into this situation, your home, being this kid who had very low self-esteem, who didn't know how to be part of a family. And then I showed up and you guys let me try on all kinds of different things, like sports, and I just felt safe, and prom and all of that. And I always wondered, what was your magic? What was your magic or your method? And you told me the other day, your method to healing traumatized children was...
I loved you from the minute you came in.
But I think you just love everybody. It still shows today, and it's transitioned to the next generation and the next generation, to your grandkids. Everybody just has these compassionate, loving hearts. And it starts with, you both. That was your magic. Love. Mm-hmm. And
God.
I knew it. And faith and God. Love and God. Yeah, and it really worked. It really worked for me. And when did you know that you wanted to be a foster parent?
Well, I had a girlfriend. Soon after, we lived in another town, and I was close with this one girl.
Did you go to high school with her?
No. Just met her when we were there. Moved there.
Oh, okay.
And
she was a foster kid at one time.
Eventually she told me that. Oh. Yeah, impressed with her. And we did a lot of things together. We camped together. We just got along as a family. They had two. At the time we had two. And
you?
Yeah. So she told me that one day, and I was just in awe. And that's when it happened. I thought, I want to be a foster parent.
Wow. She must have been a really nice, kind of together lady.
She was.
I love that. I love that story. So you wanted to be a part of that process that could help other children to make sure that they were able to become her, really,
right.
To have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So how old, or when, so you already had kids at home when you had your first foster kid, right?
Yes, we had 3.
Wow. So was it all joy?
Oh, no.
So it can be challenging to be a foster parent.
Yes.
But you kept at it. You kept having more foster kids.
Yes. The first one we had was older. And I sewed for her. We did things together. We took her, I remember we took her to New Salem and as a family, and I've got pictures of her helping our little one. There was 2 or 3 at the time, down the steps of a boat.
Wow.
And she really fit in. I thought she was doing well. And one morning we got up and our car was gone. And so, found out that she had gotten into my keys and took our car.
I hope you got your car back, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but it was a little wrecked.
Oh, no. But then you still had another foster kid.
after
Yeah,
that?
well, the next one, soon after, we had a visit from one, and I really loved her. Really, really thought she was the one. And so they said, well, we'll see how things work out, because she was in another foster home. And, it was probably a week or two later, they called and they said, do you want this gal? Well, I can tell you, her name was Karen.
Oh my gosh.
And we ended up adopting her, so I said,
she's
yes.
an awesome person.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was very good, she's very smart, and she just fit in with the kids. They played and played. She was 9 at the time.
And she stayed with you forever.
And she stayed with us.
You adopted her, and
And we met her family, her sisters, and she had a sister that died. We went, in that time, and we went through that with her and went to the funeral home. And but anyway, she decided she wanted to go to college. She wanted to go to Millikan, which is Decatur. And so
that was fun. That was really cool, because that's when I really I entered the picture then.
You
and
were
that
there,
was the coolest thing to be able to take. I mean, how Disney-like was that, to get to go with the family, pack our stuff, and go to we even went to a football game.
yeah,
I had stepped into another dimension. It was so cool. I'm so glad she went there. Wasn't it fun?
It was.
she went to study nursing. And she was a great nurse. And she's still working, only at a desk.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So she really thrived in your home. And then did you have any more?
Oh, yeah. I became a foster parent support specialist.
Wow.
So I had to visit all the foster parents.
Oh my God.
And there was this one that had 2 sisters, and they did not get along. And I asked if we could have the one, if they, had ever thought about separating them. And so eventually she came to our house. She did good. And we had another one with her. They were the same age. They were about 14 or 15 when they came to live with us. And they got along, went to school. And then they turned 18, and that was it.
They were there for a long time.
Yeah.
Wow. So where'd they go?
They just left.
Wow. That's a lot. And then you can't get rid of me. So that's okay.
Thank God.
I know. That's amazing.
He knew.
Yeah. That's amazing.
He puts our life together.
I agree. Just that magic, and this is where all of this is where the magic happens. This is where it just kind of trickles down to the other generations. But yeah, this has been just, this is home, this is family, and this is really, this is where I learned family. This is where I learned you stick in there, things aren't perfect, there's conflict, but you just keep loving, you pray, you have faith, you keep hoping, you just keep trying, and you just don't give up on people.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I got it, right here, and you guys are still my role models to this day. It is so nice to have that. What a blessing. I'm so fortunate. So, thank you so much, sister. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
Hey, it's important to recognize the trauma too, and you asked about what you would say to foster parents or what advice. They need to recognize that all children that come into care are children of trauma, and so there will be those challenges, and that's where those boundaries need to be upheld in your skill set, recognizing what your skills are, and being okay with saying no if it's not going to fit within your home, because we don't want to cause more trauma to a child by bringing them in and having it not work. But children are children of trauma, and you need to be trauma informed. And yes, we'd love to think that love and and God are everything, but there's a lot more that comes down to it too. We can love, and as mom and dad do, they have a lot more skills in their parenting too. And so, you know, it's important to recognize that we have to parent in a different fashion. They're not children that we have given birth to per se, and they've got a history that we're not always aware of, that entire history, and we have to be accepting of that, and we have to be that stabilizing factor, you know, for our children, and be accepting too, and, you know, recognizing that we are going to love and continue to follow through and meet their needs, and, you know, nurture them in whatever manner is appropriate for that child. So
I think that's really a good point. I mean, I always think of the love and the faith and all that, but there is a lot of experience and skills and support. It's way more than just that. So thank you. That was important to say.
yeah, it's you
It's a
might
much
have
better way of saying things.
well, it's there's times where things change, and you have to be okay with trying new things, and you have to have that ability to recognize that you're flexible, but yet it's all right if something doesn't work, and you're going to look for something new. So having that confidence in yourself, while, you know, building that relationship too, because our children don't have that. They've had so many relationships that have been ripped away, and so, you know, that's not going to come in just an instant. It's something that's going to be built.
And they're in the process of healing as they're trying to learn these new ways and develop these new tools and become part of a family. They're healing, but they're also learning. So there's a lot going along in this situation with the child. And then the foster parents are very different than a regular parent, because there's so many other things that they have to know and put into this child and into this family. So it's more complicated.
It is a lot more complicated. And being okay that you don't have all the control. You know, I had to recognize I'm doing shared parenting with the state of Illinois and with a birth family. And, you know, some days that's not, state of Illinois is not a really great co-parenter. And so you have to have that confidence in yourself that things aren't going to be perfect. You're not going to always like what happens, but you're still there supporting, and, you know, they don't always do a great job of co-parenting. And so you have to be okay with, you're still going to support that child and who they are, and maintain, and, you know, continue to love and do what you can through those challenges.
Anything else? Any other seeds of wisdom that you would like to share?
I think foster parents need to realize it. I think a lot of them, I don't know about now, but used to when I was teaching, they thought, you know, everything would be okay when the kids came in, and they gave them their love and, you know, dealt with them. But it's not always that way. And I think they need to realize that, you know, there's going to be some bad times.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be good.
Right. Yeah, that's a good pearl of wisdom. Any other last thought?
I do training too, and I always talk about us. When I talk about youth that might age out of the system, or, you know, move into guardianship and age out of that, I always talk about our relationship and the importance of, you know, having that ability to maintain being a family even beyond the system. So you're always my prime example in that training factor.
Well, and I remember my first daughter, you babysat my first daughter. So
I
we just
did.
kind of continued which was really special because that was it. I mean, I didn't have a relationship with my family of origin at all, and that's a whole other complicated situation or conversation we could have. But I remember you babysitting, and you were so important to me then.
You were continue to be
you
extremely
are
important
still.
to me.
But being that young mom,
Yes.
that was really, really important to have that best friend and that sister, and somebody I trusted with my daughter. So, and yeah, you continue to be very important to me. You are still a mentor, and you're my sister. So
You are my
I'm
sister.
very, very lucky. It was meant to be, I think.
Yes.
So thank you guys for letting me ask you these questions. For me, I've always wondered so much, had so many questions for you, but I know that this is really a wealth of knowledge for other foster parents or teachers or anybody who has a question about foster kids or fostering and are curious about this magical family. So to me, you're magical, but it took a lot of work. It's not just magic. There's a lot more behind it than that. So thank you so much. Thank you.